Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm really glad you're here. And my guest today is Barbara Hayward, um, the Oracle. She also goes by the Old Girl Spiritual Stuff.
Yeah.
And Barb had me on an interview with her last year sometime, I think it was.
Mm. It was early
And
last week.
yeah, and we've been waiting to find a good time for her to come on here, and she had posted on social media about um, trees. And I thought, oh, that's beautiful. That will fit in with Friend a Tree Week. And before I introduce Barb, I'm going to talk just a little bit about why I wanted her here for the equinox, or getting close to that, for every year at every equinox. For the last, I think this is the third year. Then I do Friend a Tree Week, which I named myself and stuff, or really my husband named it. And I use the 3 days before the equinox and the equinox itself, and then 3 days after it, because the equinox energies wax and wane like moon energy does. And this is just to encourage everyone to find the biggest tree you can, because the bigger the tree, the higher the energy flow, the more apt you are to be able to feel that flow, and to place your hands on the tree. And can go into more detail later, but here's like one picture, just putting your hands on the tree,
Mm.
and connecting, clearing your mind, tapping into feeling the tree energy. And if you're not a person that feels a lot of stuff, don't worry, it doesn't matter. Just clear your mind and hold the intention of, you can ask the tree for wisdom, you can ask the tree to heal and then what I do specifically in Friend a Tree Week is to encourage you to send your intentions through the trees, throughout the universe, because the tree will pull up all the crystalline energies and earth energies and send it up with your intentions out through the leaves, out through the light waves and water molecules going out through the leaves, and communicate with all the trees. And so you have all this throughout the earth, then sending your intentions throughout the earth. And it's just a beautiful thing, of something I think we all are being called to do now, to connect with nature and to send our intentions for the highest good throughout the universe. And so if you want more information on that, you can find it on my website. Right when you go to the homepage on the website, there's a little button on the picture that shows to click on that to go to the other page for a lot of free information about Friend a Tree Week. And so I'm going to read a short biography here about Barbara. Barbara Hayward integrates spiritual mastery and inspired living in the 21st century. And today she joins us to talk about the spiritual side of trees and their wisdom. Barb has been studying, teaching, sharing, and living spiritual awareness, and ways, including the law of attraction, for over 40 years. Using her unique sense of humor, her amazing storytelling ability, and her deep love of all things practical and spiritual, Barbara brings to you knowledge gleaned over her 70 years, so you can become the best you that is possible. Being the down to earth person she is, and her Aussie humor thrown in for
Mm.
good measure, she welcomes you here to rediscover your oneness with life itself. She shares her stories and wisdom on her own YouTube channel and on Facebook, and the links are below there. It's on Facebook, it's the Old Girl Spiritual Stuff, and on YouTube, it's at Barbara Hayward dash 1953. And so, Barbara, thank you so much for joining me. I've been excited to for our conversation, because I know it's going to be fun and wonderful and deep. So,
Thank you, Carla. Thank you. Like you, I've been really excited about today. I love telling stories, and I love the stories of my spiritual experiences over that time. I seem to be a lady that just walks into stories. and stories happen around me. I get placed into situations, not thinking there's a story out of it, but there's a story that comes out of it. So thank you so much for allowing me to share my experiences, or part of my experiences over the decades.
Oh, you're very welcome, and I'm very happy you're here. And so, Barb, I'd like to start by you telling us whatever part of your story you feel you want to share or that you feel led to share. And
Okay, I was 30 when my marriage broke up. And I met my husband when I was 15 and separated right on 30. So half my life was being very involved in normalism, if you like. And he was a complete atheist, and he'd had been hurt, and all sorts of things had happened. So now I'm on my own, and I joined an organization, and there was because I hooked up with a guy that I quite liked, and there was a function called a psychic evening and with this organization. So we went there, and there was a lady who gave a reading, and I can't remember the reading, but I fell in love with her energy, went and saw her far too many times, and she became my teacher. So that's the long and the short. But she became a really unusual teacher. We did not touch. She said to me, while I'm with you, you're not allowed to touch a tarot pack, give a clairvoyant message, or do a healing until I tell you you're ready. I want you to have a really strong connection to who you believe God is to you. I want that to be really powerfully strong. I really want you to understand who your people in spirit are, your guides, your helpers, however you'd like to call them. I call them my people. And that needs to be really cemented and concreted to be at such a stage where you're working as one. The other thing that I want you to do in this time of discovery, and she said, if you can formulate the question, I can give you the answer. If you can't formulate the question, no amount of me giving you the answer will you understand it. And so I can't remember the question, but I certainly remember her answer. And that answer gave me the next 43 years, coming up to 43 years. And it's still unfolding and evolving. And the answer was, she looked at me and she goes, Barb, that's a really good question. Now, because I thought I'm going to get all the answers on a silver platter. How lucky am I? She said, really good answer, though, a question. Now, what I want you to do is go out and ask the universe the question. Keep your eyes and ears open, and life itself will give you the answer. And when you got the answer, come back and we'll talk about it. And this is how she taught me. And in the 8 years that I was with her, she would have sat down maybe 4 or 5 times and just answered my questions. But she wanted me to do the discovery of my discovery. And I call it the listening to the unheard, listening to the unseen and hearing the unheard, which is quite the paradox. So I started to go out and talk to myself, if you like, or the universe. And the questions back there were quite simple. Time goes on, and I meet a man, and I live in Australia with 2 young children, and he's a New Zealander. And long, short story, we find ourselves in New Zealand to live. New Zealand is quite different to Melbourne. It is cold, and certainly winter is a lot colder. We arrived in New Zealand with very, very limited money. In fact, it was $240 way back when. And now we're coming up to winter, and it is cold where we lived. Dennis said to me, look, we've got a pine forest down near the beach. The beach would have been 35 kilometres away, thereabouts. So we can go and get pine cones. And the pine cones, we've got an open fire, and the pine cones will keep us warm. And so we went there, and we took all these bags, and we were going, because, pine forests have got a lot of pine cones. a lot of pine cones. And so we were so excited, and my eldest son was there and with a friend, and we chalked. Not a pine cone to be found. I have absolutely no idea. It wasn't just us, it was other people walking through with no pine cones. So off we go home. And next week, because he works through the week, we went the next weekend, but I took my tomahawk, we took our bags, and I was going to make this happen. Just, the Aussie ingenuity. So the boys started to go the tree, and the forest started to talk to me. It's like, it's not a good idea, Barb. There was other words they said. So I said to the boys, can you come down? Can you just leave it with me? Now, there were other people around. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I selected, and it was interesting you talking about the tallest tree, because the tallest tree in my world is the granddaddy tree. I call it the granddaddy tree. So I looked for the granddaddy tree, and there was this massive pine tree. So I sat with my back to its trunk and cross-legged and in meditation. I said to the daddy pine tree, I said, thank you so much for welcoming us into your forest. And I'm from Australia, and your New Zealand winters are very cold. Would you mind telling me how can we get your pine cones? Where are your pine cones? And I talked about the fact that we would honor the pine cones when we burnt them, that we would feel very blessed while we've got the pine cones, and as the heat warms our house and warms us, that we would be honoring and in appreciation. And I asked the daddy pine tree if it would talk to the other trees around and help us to take the pine cones home. And and I gave them thanks for the warmth and all those conversations. And this is a true thing. This really happened. Every story, and I've written it in my book, every story I tell actually happened. There was just a little distance away, there was like an open space, like a circle, if you like, and it was just pine needles, but there was no trees in it. Would have been maybe 15 feet wide in diameter. And there were other people there. I don't know why they were there. There was no pine cones. And I tell you not, the earth opened up, the pine needles separated, and all these pine cones rose out of underneath all the pine cones, all the pine needles. We, that day, us personally, took home 23 large garbage bags of pine cones that lasted us the whole year. Wow. We were not the only ones that saw this. The other couples that were there was about 6 other people, like 3 couples, and our mouths were dropped because I've never seen anything like it. And so we were in tears. They were just in awe. They gathered up their pine cones. There was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds in this circle of pine cones. They were dry. They were old ones, so we didn't have to dry them. They weren't green. And so when we went home and we stored them away, we also gave thanks. And each time we brought a basket of them in, we gave thanks again, because we fully understood that this wasn't a miracle. It was a miracle in our minds, but what it was nature saying that we have some answers for you if only you would ask the right questions. Mm-hmm. And so this was what Crystal was trying to teach me, was to connect. And my connection was my back to the trunk of the tree. And in that vibration of my spirit, of my soul, my awareness, the tree could understand whether I was authentic or not. Because don't think for a minute that if you've got if you're harboring negativity or bad thoughts for others in your heart, that the trees won't pick it up. They will pick it up
Yeah.
because they're far more in tune than we are. And as we were walking through the forest, I did acknowledge the trees as I left. Of course, we had big smiles on our face, and this is what nature wants for us, to be happy. They wanted us to acknowledge where the pine cones come from, to acknowledge them and to bless them, and then to see the happiness in our heart through our face of appreciation, and us knowing that we didn't do this. We didn't do this. We connected with who did do this, and we connected with the oneness, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
And so that taught me a lot. That was a really practical, life saving, living, everyday experience that showed me the practicality of what nature allows and wants for us as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. Your own miracle, right?
Yeah.
To remember all through your life. Ah,
You know,
lovely.
Carla, as I was retelling it, I often think of that experience, whether I'm talking to somebody or not, because that was just such a connection. And it was the mistake I will tell you the mistake I made, if you like.
Mhm.
The mistake I made was not connecting with Granddaddy Tree in the beginning.
Mm.
That I thought I had to force the pine cones, because I sent the boys up the tree with the tomahawk to cut them down. And the tree was telling me at that stage, you are hurting me. You are
Mm.
cutting me. And so I had to bring them down. And they said to me in that moment, talk to us. Talk to us. And so then I was inspired to find the Granddaddy Tree. And the Granddaddy Tree wasn't the tree that I sent the boys up on. It was a different tree.
Mhm.
And so it was really an experience, an education for me, that all nature wants is to us to listen. You know,
Yeah.
one of the things I say to people is, if you've got a beautiful garden and you want those beautiful flowers inside your house, please go and talk to the flowers the day before. Ask them, give them their permission to cut them tomorrow. Could I please cut you tomorrow? Your fragrance is so beautiful. Your vision is so beautiful. I would like that inside my house. Would you mind giving up your space here and coming inside with me? Your flowers will last double the time. If you and my husband did it the other day. We live on a little piece of land that is completely covered with, surrounded by nature and trees and everything. And it's a makeshift driveway. We've put stones on it, and it's getting a little overgrown with grass, and the roots are quite deep. I said to him, "Why are you struggling? Go and talk to the weeds and ask them to give up their roots and go out tomorrow, and they will just fall out. Why are you struggling? Why are you not talking to the weeds? Tell them why you need them to be removed. Tell them that you'll put them alongside the bank. If they're there, they're going to be run over and they'll be hurt. Our cars will drive over them." And he went out and they just released themselves.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. I tried that. I have a couple flowering quince that I planted 5 years ago or 6 years ago when we first moved here, and they have a lot of thorns, and I'm tired of doing the thorns. And so I talked to him after listening to yours because um, I've always thought, sometimes I've talked to them, but other times I know that they hear my intentions also. And so I haven't specifically taught, but I would stand by him and know they heard my intentions. But yesterday or the day before, I stood by those flowering quince, and like you had done, and I had my hands on them in safe places, so I wasn't getting thorned. And I was just telling him how much I appreciate them because I got them from a friend, and how much beautiful they are, and but that I can't do the thorns anymore. So I was going to dig them up, and I'm going to replant with fruit trees, right? And I asked them so that when I dig in a few days, if they would please release. And so I will have that experience too,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I had a friend years ago that lived on a farm, and in the middle of the farm was their house property. And my friend had a beautiful veggie garden and the gardens. And she was so sick and tired of the rabbits coming on and eating what she'd planted. And so she went and talked to them. She went and talked to the rabbits. And she went out and she sat into her garden and she said to the rabbits, look, I really don't want you on my property. I really, really don't want you to do that. You are eating my vegetables. There's enough grain. There's enough things on the farm itself. Now, I'll make a deal with you. I'll make a deal. If you come this side of the property that is my home, part of the property, I will have to hurt you. And I don't want to do that. But if you stay on the other side of the fence, you've got acres and acres, go for it. We will not touch you. No, we'll make that a deal with you. If you stay your side, you'll be fine. Please don't come on my side. I've told you the consequences. She never had another rabbit on her piece of property.
Oh.
She never had that. I've done it with ants. We had, I don't know why in this house we had ants in the toilet area, but they were there and we couldn't get rid of them. So I did the same thing. I said, if you're after water, I will make sure there's water on the other side of the wall. Please do not come into the bathroom. If you come here, I am going to have to do consequences you're not going to like. But I will feed you water on the other side. Please don't come in again. And they never did.
I will have to try that. We have a fire ant hill in the yard.
Right.
They're no fun. And
no. Ask them to go somewhere that's more appropriate.
Yeah. How far do you think they can go?
They can go as far as they like.
Well, okay. Well, about a half mile away outside our little town is a burn pile. I meant with acres there. They could go there. I will try that, Barb. I learned so much from you.
Thank them for being there, though, in the first place. Thank them.
Because they help pollinate and help aerate the soil. Mm-hmm.
But do we not like to be thanked?
Oh, yeah.
It makes us feel good. And if we thank people, then more than likely when we ask the next thing of them, they will gladly do it for us. And so thank them for all that they've done, the pollination, keeping other people away, all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And then ask them if they would mind. There is a safer place. If you stay here, unfortunately, we're going to have consequences that are not good for you. And I don't want to do that. You deserve to live. There is another place. This is the place. Please transport yourself there. And I thank you. And just see how it works. Now, there was a second story, if I may, with trees.
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to hear it, Barb.
This happened last year. So there's 35 years difference between my first story and this story. The reason I'm in New Zealand at this part of time is because my youngest son has got our youngest grandchildren, and I'd never lived near them, different countries. And so he said to me one day, Mum, the grandbabies are not getting any younger. They're growing up really, really quickly. You need to be part of their life while they're growing up. So hence, of course, Mum and Grandma and Granddad moved countries, as you do, and here we are. So they bought a house, a lovely house, very old, and in the backyard they planted a shrub or a tree, and it grew over the 10 years that they planted it. And now it's not a really massive tree. It's not a very shady tree. It's quite spindly in itself. And they wanted to take it out and put it in the front garden because now they wanted that space for something different.
Mhm.
And I went there one day and they've got concrete around the base. All the concrete had been taken up and they're digging away and digging holes and, all around the roots. And I said to my daughter-in-law, I don't mention any of their names through their
Right.
request.
Absolutely.
Um,
Mhm.
I
Or
spoke to my daughter-in-law and I said, what are you up to? What are you doing? She said, well, we need to move that tree. We want to put it out the front because we want to do ABC with it. And I said, it looks like a bit of a mess. She said, the roots are really quite down. I said, oh. And she said, I don't know what to do because I don't really want to damage the tree roots because then it'll kill the tree, which is not what we're after. And I said, oh, would you mind if I do a bit of my mumbo jumbo on this, which is what I call it? She said, sure. Now, her eldest daughter, my eldest granddaughter here, has shown a great interest in my life and my spirit and things like that. And so I said to her, I'm darling heart, I'm going to talk to your tree. And normally I do it through thought, um, silent
okay.
thought. But would you like to join me today? And I'll speak out loud so that you understand what Grandma's doing and the process and how it unfolds. So she went and got a couple of plastic chairs and I sat there. And one of the things that they do with this tree is they've got nails in the tree, which is fine. And they cut up oranges into slices and they put them there for the birds.
Uh-huh.
So up high so the cats don't get them and the birds have got their oranges. And it's given the kids a little bit of shade, not much. So I sat down and I spoke to the tree and I gave it great thanks for all that it's done for the family. And I mentioned the orange for the birds and things like that. And I said to the tree, it is now time, with your permission, that we need to move you. And we've got a space out the front, and you've been here alone for all these years. But out the front, you've got family waiting. You've got other trees out there that you will be part of a new community. You'll be part of their family. And I said, however, there's a problem. And the problem is you've taken your roots so far down that we can't get it up without damaging you. And we don't want to damage you. Is there a way that you could possibly release your roots so that we could come and pull you out a lot easier? We would really appreciate that because it is time to go to the front. And so I thanked it for releasing its roots. And so then we went out to the front and I said to the other trees, I sat in front of them and I said, look, you've got a brother coming to stay with you. He's been out the back, but now it's time for him to come and join your family. I would expect you all to treat him nicely. He's done well at the back, but he needs company. And as older people out here, I would expect you to take care of him. He's
Mhm.
only about 10 years old. And so I would appreciate if you welcomed him and made him part of the family of which he should be. And I give thanks for that. I stood with him, forceful, if you like. And so I went back a couple of weeks later. I noticed as we walk around the back that the tree. And I said to my daughter-in-law, I said, did you get it out? Or because I didn't see it. I didn't even look at the front. And because I'd forgotten what I'd done. And she said, the funniest thing happened, Barb. I went out there a couple of days after or a day after when you did the exercise with your granddaughter. She said, I got all the excavations, so I was ready to rip that tree out. And I moved it like this, and all of a sudden it started moving and coming up, and the roots had released themselves. And we just took it out and we planted it at the front. I said, oh, well, that's amazing, isn't it? Who would have thought, I said. Who would have thought? That's what I say to everything. Who would have thought? Because I never, ever, ever, and I have never said it because I hate having people say it to me, is I told you so. I cannot stand that term, that sentence. So I just say, who would have thought? So with that, I said to my granddaughter, grab the chairs, darling heart, and we'll go out and say thank you to the other trees. And we'll have a talk to the tree and see how it's coping, how it's going. And so we did that, and I said it out loud, and I said, how are you feeling? And thank you so much for releasing your roots. It was so wonderful for the family to be able to move you. And are the other trees treating you well? I hope they are. We've had a chat, and is it nice to be with company all the time? And you look really happy here. The tree really looked happy. And we had a conversation, and I thanked it very much again. And I said, just enjoy your time with your new family, and off we go. So as ridiculous as it sounds, and as silly as it sounds, it actually is all that we should be doing. When Mother Nature, when I went through the gorge, and I looked at the devastation that the rains had come. This wasn't man-made devastation. This actually was nature itself. We've had horrendous rains right down the centre of both islands. And for her to say, why are you damaging Mother Earth quicker than I can heal her? When all she asks is respect. She asks that we think about what's right for her. One of the things I was talking to my husband about this morning in a general conversation was, where has integrity gone these days? Integrity seems to be dying off in lots of ways. And this is just integrity. We can be very altruistic and say we're all part of the one and everything, which we are, but it's really just about respect. And it's when we give respect, be it Mother Nature or wherever, we get immense respect back. And we can ask the bestest things of Mother Earth, the flowers, the roses, the weeds, the trees, and we get a response. And before we knew everything, this is what we used to do. This is what we used to do before we knew everything, which in reality is that we've lost most things.
We have.
Yeah.
We have, for sure. You talked a little bit earlier about what you've learned from the ocean, too.
That was a really amazing experience. Because I've always rented, because Spirit have taken me. I don't, not even wanting to tell you how many times I've moved house, and moved countries too. I will say, moved back to Australia and New Zealand. And so we had a double-story house with an apartment underneath, but a little balcony, and in that balcony I could see the ocean. I had a really good view of quite a bit of the ocean. A place called Mount Maunganui in Tauranga in the North Island of New Zealand. And so I just kept looking at her because I love the ocean, as I love the forest. And she started by saying to me through her waves that she had things to teach me. Because the question I had posed to the universe, remember, ask the question and life itself will give you the answers. The question I posed to myself and the universe is, why do we have a soul, and what is our soul? And what's our soul purpose? Only a small question. But I would have expected those questions to have taken maybe 10 or 15 years to get an answer. I'm a very long-term player in lots of regards, very impatient in others, but in a lot of things long-term. And so while I was watching the ocean, I noticed that sometimes there were clouds, and the clouds would form different colours in the ocean water. Sometimes I noticed that the waves coming in were very rough when it was windy, and I noticed that there were times it was flat like a mirror, and all sorts of things. But this is taken over the 4 seasons that I watched the different colours. When the sun was shining, no clouds, it was the most beautiful blue. And then we had turquoise come through. Then we had the grey colour and the angry colours and the waves that just crashed. And while I was observing her, she was saying to me that, look at the moon, discover what the moon does to me. And another time, the question that they came back to me as I was watching the ocean would be, what makes us move? Find out what makes us move. The tides. Discover that. And just kept asking me to look at different facets. And so I know the moon has a connection to the tides and the pull of the tide. So you've got full moon, and then you've got high tides, and you've got low tides, all sorts of different tides. Then you've got the wind that comes in off the ocean, and that wind, when it's really forceful, also brings the ripples in of the waves. And that if it's a very calm day wind-wise, the ocean is often very calm as it comes to the beach part of it. And then I observed through her connection was to look underneath the water, not just what was happening on top of the water, in connection to the invisible wind and the invisible connection, magnetism to the moon, that connection there. That was all invisible. And so then I had to look under. Sorry, there was a cutout. Then I had to look at what was happening underneath. Now, what we couldn't see was also connected to the moon and the different phases of the moon and the magnetic forces coming from there. We also then had to look at some of the solar flares coming out of the sun and how that electromagneticness affected the water as well. Now, what she was teaching me was, at the end of the 12 months, the 4 seasons, she said to me, what you've observed is that you are the water, you're the ocean. You are the physical formation of what we can see. But it's what you cannot see that makes the ocean actionable. If there was no moon and if there was no wind, that water would be totally stagnant. And the only reason it moves is because of the invisible connection between the moon and the wind and the sun rays. And that is me. That is your soul. Because if it wasn't your soul, the invisible part of you, then you would just be a 3D cutout. And they're the things that she showed me over the but I had to keep my eyes open. I had to observe. And that is the secret, is to be an observer of things. And this is something I've noticed, that I didn't have a word 40 years ago. And when I look back from when Crystal started teaching me, I was doing all this without knowing that it had a name. I thought I was weird, and I lived a normal life. I had double-story house, 2 kids, a husband, everything that a normal next-door neighbour had. And so when he left, it gave me the opportunity to for spirit universe to bring this out of me. So I had to recognize it and acknowledge it for what it is. But but this, our soul is the invisible part that makes us to be the action part. And so without the soul, we are just nothing. We are literally nothing.
Yeah.
We
Right.
are a paper cutout. And
Yes.
it's
Yes.
the invisible part of us that is the most exciting part, because the invisible part of us makes us uniquely who we are, and makes us react to things in a most unique way. And so when I have spent time observing and listening to that unknown voice, the voice that cannot be heard, and listening to the trees, I noticed that to have great wealth, we lived in a house in Auckland at one stage, and it was just a house. It was a nice house. It was an old house. It was just a house. But we had this patio, really big patio. But what we were gifted was trees around the patio. And so we were a little broke at the time. And I knew that great wealth, you sit in abundance. So we took a sandwich out at lunchtime and sat on the balcony on the patio and admired the trees. And those trees gave us wealth energy. We knew we were sitting amongst abundance. And then years later, we had massive abundance. And so I often say to my husband, in where we live and where we've always lived in different locations, be it Perth in Australia or Brisbane or Melbourne or, or any part of the North Island of New Zealand, the many places, there's always beauty. There is always a piece of nature, even if it's just that weed, even if it's a garden unattended to. And if we could, and I'd say to people, if you just cut sandwiches and grab a bottle of water out, a old plastic bottle, fill it up with your sink water, your tap water, and just go to the beach and sit there in its abundance. Go walk along the street and admire those rose bushes that somebody's got. Then you're bringing abundance in. Nature is our ultimate abundance.
Yes.
It changes through its just being itself, just standing there. And when I go through the gorge, I've been through the gorge many, many, many times. But one day I actually looked at the gorge. I really looked at her, and I said to my husband, "Can you see her? Look, there are millions upon millions of trees here, and they're not all the same color. Have you recognized when you drive or you sit or whatever, when you're with trees or that part of nature, I'm not talking about the ocean, I'm talking about this part of the nature, is there is no two colors, greens the same? And in the gorge, there are millions of trees, by the way. It's just prolific of trees. Then I asked him, Christian, how did they all get seeded? I wanted to know that because that's my scientific mind. And when I looked at the hues of the color green, this is nature. No two trees are exactly the same. And how many colors are there of green? Well, just look around you. And do you not think that's abundance? That's an abundance in its magical form. But aren't we, when I look at a tree, if I could use this as an example, if I've got time, a tree is made up of wood. Wood is or of timber. Timber is made up of wood. Wood is made up of atoms. Atoms are made up of molecules. And if we're going into quantum physics, molecules are made up of protons, neutrons, electrons, and void. Many formulas of it. So what are we? We are flesh and bone and blood and water and, hopefully a brain, but the brain comes from our spirit. And what is our body made up of? It's made up of atoms. And what are atoms made up? They're made of molecules. And molecules, what are they made up? Electrons, neutrons, protons, and void. We are the same as the tree. We're made up of the same properties of a tree, except in a different formula. When you get to the quantum physics aspect, when you get to the microscopic part of that indivisible part, we are made up of the same thing. Why are we hurting her? Why are we hurting her when we're hurting ourselves? That's what we're doing. We're the same, just a different formula, just a different makeup. Here is, let's say there's 1.5 trillion people on the earth plane. No fingerprint is the same.
Yeah.
You look at all the trees, no tree is the same color. Not exactly the same color. What are we afraid of? Why are we hurting?
Because we've forgotten, right?
A bit of passion.
Yeah. Oh,
Forgotten.
I love it though too. Could could you share that passion with us if we I don't know if it'll be kind of like a meditation, but if we all like close our eyes and um you're showing all your background of the trees behind you and I can show
Can I
a
show, before we go there, can I show you my front ground?
oh,
May I
absolutely.
show the
Yeah.
audience what this is what you look at. This is what I look at every day. Every
Yes.
day. That's what
Beautiful.
I look at. And you know, I was talking somewhere else the other day in a group I belong to, and we were talking about being in the moment. We need to come back and be present. Every moment that I live on this piece of land, I am only in the moment. Because when you're with nature, when you're in the middle of nature, you have only got this moment and it surrounds you. Do you
Mm. Well, I hope we haven't lost you, Barb. I can't hear you. You're kind of stuck, so hopefully you'll have a good connection soon and come back. Um, until she comes back, everyone, I want to show you. I showed you this picture before about how you could hold a tree. You could also hold it in a different way if you want to do a hug for a tree. And again, pick a big tree. Oh, there, Barb will have to come back to us here. Um, so I'll just keep talking until she appears here. And I do have one more picture of a tree. I thought this was awesome, the big canopy plus the all the massive roots. Um, and that one, a friend sent that to me from Puerto Rico, a beautiful tree down there. And I just love hearing Barb's stories. She has such a great way of telling stories, but I'm learning. I hope you're learning. I mean, she inspires me to go deeper than I have, and in many ways. And she was telling her first experience with trees. I know I had experiences with trees when I was a little girl. We lived on a farm, and we had great big giant cottonwood trees, and they were my friends. And I would go out when I was little, and can't remember what age, and put my hands on them and um, talk to them and tell them my stories or my sadness or whatever I was feeling. And they were just my friends. I played in their shade. I rode my bicycle um, down through their shade of the big canopy over the driveway, and it was just lovely. But of course, I lost that connection as I grew up, and um, then it wasn't until a few years ago, and I had heard like 5 or 6 years ago, and I had heard that trees carry the emotion of the people of the land, that have lived there where the trees are. So I went out and we have two big linden trees right out the back door of our house. And so I um, went to one of them and put my hands on that tree. And I didn't know what to feel. That's the first time I had like consciously held a tree to try to feel their energy. And it was all of a sudden, it was like I found myself, I was really smiling great big. It was like, oh, wow, the tree is happy. And so a day or two later, I'd gone to the other big linden tree and did the same there. And yep, pretty soon it was like I didn't even consciously think of anything except tapping into it. And and that tree was happy too. And here's Barb back. Hi, Barb. Glad you could come back.
Hi, sorry about that. Maybe the trees got excited too.
I think so. So could you, whichever way,
Absolutely.
tap into that energy for us and tell
Yeah.
us what you feel, or a message of wisdom from it, or just a meditation, however you feel led. Okay.
Okay. Well, what I'd like our beautiful audience to do is just to close their eyes, and I'd like them to sway a little bit, front to back or side to side, because that's what our breeze, that's the breeze of our trees. Doesn't need to be huge, it just needs to be a movement. And when you do this, I want you to imagine the 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 leaves are rustling because the breeze is there, it's welcoming. And with this energy, I'd like you to start walking towards a tree. It could be a granddaddy tree, it could be a mummy tree, it could be a sister or a brother tree. And I want you to go up to that tree, and I want you to put your arms around that tree. But more importantly, I want you to feel the branches of that tree coming down and hugging you as well. I want your heartbeat to go towards the tree and allow the tree's heartbeat, where your heart is, to come and vibrate with you, to allow both of your hearts to join together, to bring the energy of ancient wisdom that tree has brought through its seed, through the seeds of the tree that it's come from, and the tree before that, and the tree before that, into eons. Allow that heartbeat to bring through to you its wisdom and its knowledge and its oneness. As you hold it in your thoughts, it is holding you in its arms, in its love. It's always only ever wanted to love you and to warm you and to shade you. It's only ever wanted you to be part of it and it to be part of you. And just when you're ready, just move away and give thanks to the tree for its wisdom, for its knowledge, for its warmth, and for giving up itself at times to warm our bodies in fires, that it's given up itself at times for beautiful sculptures to be made, for beautiful equipment, that it's given up itself at times so that we can have a house over to live in and a roof over our head, that we can be sheltered inside a building that is made of its wood, that we acknowledge that we need to work together for the good of all, that allow that tree to know that you respect it and understand its gifts and what it gives to humanity, be it fresh air, be it oxygen, be it warmth, be it shelter, be it a structure, be it a sculpture for our beauty. And as you do that, and you allow the tree to speak to you, allow the heartbeat to continue going through you as you part company, and take that wisdom and that knowledge with you. Nature loves you. Nature's here to support us. We need to be here to support nature. Nature asks very little. It battles a lot. And man is its greatest battle. Yet man is its greatest friend. Be that friend. Be that friend. Thank you.
Barb, that was beautiful. Get tears running down my cheeks. Thank you. Thank you much. So, do you teach people how to do this nature connection, like when you work with clients or in your speaking, or do you?
I
Or is
don't
it?
know the answer to that. I I I'm starting my career again. I mean, how dumb am I at 73 coming up? I laugh at myself because it's life has given me the opportunity to become seen again, which is amazing. Um, I share my knowledge very freely on my YouTube channel by inviting immensely amazing people like yourself to share your knowledge as much as I share mine. But I'm more involved these days in the law of attraction and teaching deliberate manifestation and using and utilizing nature in amongst that as well. Now, what you've done is sparked off an idea for me that I wouldn't have thought of. It is an area that I do love, and it's an area for me that is incredibly personal. These are stories that I've not really shared. Well, I have shared, but I think the way I'm next week, I'm part of an amazing summit called the New Era of Global Healing, and it's all about healing humans and healing Earth. And I feel out of that things will happen as well. I have a free gift of the 7 secrets that people won't tell you about the law of attraction, and we can put the link up here.
Oh, that'd be
And I
great.
do, yeah, and I do readings. I do personal one-on-one readings through Zoom, and that goes for about 90 minutes. It's a long one because I like to talk, and my people are usually got a lot to say, and that's recorded, and that's on my page as well. So it is the old girl spiritualstuff.com. My YouTube channel, my Facebook page, slightly different. It's the old girls spiritual stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just, it's to do with branding or something that was made, the old girl. Now, unfortunately or fortunately, I set up my Facebook page when I did it a couple of years ago, thinking that nobody's going to be interested in my Facebook page anyway, and that's another story for another day. But I limited it to 5,000 friends,
Oh,
and well, that was all right because I was only it took me 15 years to get 5 or 600 on my other page, which is Page of Nothingness. So I thought it was going to be okay. It's not going to make any difference. Nobody's going to see it. It's a dumb name anyway, let's face it. The old girl spiritual stuff. Nobody's going to listen to that. But can I tell you that it took me to get my first 1,000. It took me from the 17th of November to, I think it was about the 3rd of March. And then, oh no, it was the 12th of March. 12th of March to the 23rd, another 1,000. 23rd to the 31st, another 1,000. And then 31st through to about the 7th was another 1,000. I'm sorry, but I run now constantly at 4,950. So there's not a lot of spaces in there. And so I've also made it that it's in a energetic Facebook. So I don't accept everyone in. I do a lot of due diligence on who I accept in the Facebook page. I set it up to be spiritual, to be loving, to be caring, to have an uplifting energy. And because I knew the globe was in trouble, Earth is in trouble, our vibration needs to be lifted. So I made it. So in the past, for me to accept a request, friend request, I would probably, in 200 requests, I would accept maybe 5. Because I really are very diligent on the vibration that comes through. So please do not be offended. It's just that my people, they go through our energies, and I've only got 50 spaces. I don't know how to do that. But we have got around 5,000, 6,000 followers. So that's as important. I don't know that people need to be part of the friendship. They don't get anything different. There's nothing different there. It's just a recognition, I guess. So, but if you would like me to interview you, if you're of a spiritual nature, please contact me, DM, the old girl spiritual stuff. And you'll see me, and I'm wearing this yellow scarf as well. And it's really about the globe needs healing. We need healing. We need to, this new vibration that's coming through that is massive. It's a massive, massive global shift. And there's a purpose for us. We're going into the 5th dimension, and there's a massive shift there. But it's an exciting shift. And I will tell you at this summit that we're running next week, my conversation, it's only a small one, is why is humanity waking up all at once, and what is the global shift revealing? And it's so exciting. And so that is also a conversation that I've actually got up on my YouTube channel. I've done, somebody interviewed me the other week about it, so there's a lot of information there. So thank you, Carla, for that. But if people want me to talk, if they get a gathering of 10 or 15 people and they want to Zoom me in, I would love to do that. I would love to talk about nature. I'd love to talk about the things. I do channel a lot of my knowledge, even though my stories are my experience, but I'm always channeling. I've completely immersed. About 3 decades ago, I fully immersed as one with spirit, with my people. And that was the idea of what Crystal was trying to teach me and to get me to do. And what an honor it's been for me to be here today, Carla. What an absolute honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think the honor is mine. And I just love talking to you, Barb. You're a wealth of knowledge and common sense and love, right? Love for the universe. And so thank you so much. And yes, if you get me the link, and I'll put your website link below because I didn't know that, and the link to your manifestations, that sounds really interesting for a lot of us to check out too. And
yeah, if you go to my freebie, that will, apparently I've been a little intelligent lately. I've had to learn a whole lot of things, Carla, because the bulk of my work, as I've told you, was before internet. So all my radio show, I had my radio show for 3 years. We did over, 2 or 3,000 phone calls or something, 2,000 phone calls, 4,000 questions. All the things that I've done has been before the internet. So now I have to learn things like AI and WeTransfer and Dropbox and it's just shorts and videos, and it's just very all consuming. But if you do take the freebie, they do ask, and it's a really interesting ebook too, by the way. They really are things that I have learned over the 40 years through a knowledge that I gained when I first entered consciously the spiritual realm. And it's really, and that information is not taught today. And so, and then you'll get an email letting you know about the workshop. I have a course, I believe, in May, and then one May, July, and then one in September, I think, which is over 4 weeks. And it's twice a week, and there'll be replays, and you can get that because not everybody's available, time zones and everything else. But I would love to meet your audience. I love people that are doing good work. I created my Facebook page by accident. But they just said press this, I pressed that. They said press this, I pressed that, and then I was live, and it's like, what the hell's going on here? That's an Aussie slang, by the way. I could have said more. And so it's really important that we stay in high vibration. I know the world's in chaos, but it's not going to be in chaos forever. Whether it goes out of chaos in my lifetime, I don't know. But I do know that what we're entering this year, this new fifth dimensional vibrational healing shift, the energy shift, is dynamic. It's exciting. It's harsh. It's mind-blowing. It's devastating, and it's brilliant. And it's about what you understand of it and how you work within it. Now, it's happening with or without our permission. It's not us. The big shift didn't come to me and knock on my door and say, hey, Barb, is it okay if we do a global shift, if we do a vibration? No. It's just doing its thing. I have to work within it. I have to understand it to work within it. And the abundance that's coming out of this on every level is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And it's there waiting. It's waiting. But it's a mind shift. It's a thought shift. It's understanding what it's expecting of us so that we can maneuver and work within the energy, not fight against it. And that's the secret.
Yes.
Are bad things going to happen? Yes, they are. Are good things going to happen? Yes, they are. Is hard things going to happen? Yes, there are. Are there going to be people who will lose their lives? Yes, there will be. Are there going to be people who will maintain and bring love to the globe? Yes, there will be. We've got everything. But it's how we want to perceive it, how we want to react to it, and how we want to action within it. It's one of the most brilliant times to be alive.
It is. And I'm just going to insert here. Every week I do a podcast where I do a biofield tuning. It's a shorter one. And I attune us to the astrological energies of each week, so that we just exactly for that, so we can work with those energies instead of against us. So that's available to anyone who wants that extra help in life, right? In getting through each week.
Yeah. And do you know what I love so much about this, Carla? And I've spoken about this to others. I love jigsaws. So I often refer to jigsaw puzzles. And a jigsaw puzzle, I always do the outside first. So I know where
Yeah.
things are connected and start from. And then
Right.
I put this piece with that piece, and then I put this piece with that piece. And over time, the whole thing fills itself out. Now, 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle requires 1,000 pieces to complete it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you have a look, every piece has got a different aspect of the bigger picture in it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you join it together, so these little 1,000 aspects, when you pull them together, they make the one big picture. But it's not complete unless you've got the 1,000 pieces.
Mm-hmm.
This is about what's going on at the moment. We'll translate this into practical knowledge. You've got 1,000 healers doing it 1,000 different ways. But it's all, we need the whole 1,000 people to complete the bigger picture for overall healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so no one person knowledge is more important than the other. They're just part of the bigger picture. Now, the other thing, the best hands-on healer is no more brilliant at what they do than the mother who's got a little baby in arms that's rubbing its back because it's crying. That is as powerful as the greater hands-on healer has ever been. And so every part of healing is so significantly important, and no aspect of it is more important than any other. Now, I'm a public speaker. I'm out in the community. That was my role this lifetime. But I am no more significant in the bigger picture than that woman who is nurturing that baby by patting its back, giving it great love and safety and security. Mine is no more important than hers. We are equally as important because we have different roles to play. But without those 1,000 pieces for a 1,000-piece jigsaw, it cannot be completed.
I love that analogy. Yes. Thank you, Barb.
And I will leave this with your audience today. It's a bit grotty, but I'm an Aussie. I've tried to look. I've looked at different phases over the decades as what spiritually is happening, and how can I relate it into a day-to-day event. And this is how I perceive what's happening at the moment. For those of you who've had babies, birthed babies, you will fully understand. To those who haven't, you get the gist. You've heard it before. But when you're in the last stages of labour, it's a bit grotty. It's a bit pooey, it's a bit wee, and it hurts a lot, like a lot. And you really don't think you're ever going to get out of it because it hurts so much. You feel that pain is going to kill you, or it's going to disable you, or it's never going to end. And then, just when you least expect it, in the density of that pain and the grottiness, you hear a sound. And you're handed a baby. And this is a generalization. I understand the cesarean. I understand not all births are brilliant endings. I get that. But this is the general gist. And then we're handed the baby, and that's world peace. We are, at the moment, in the last stages of labour. It is grotty. It is painful. It hurts a lot. And we never think it's ever going to end. But it ends.
And then we forget the rest.
And we forget the rest. And that's where we are at the moment, in a very idealistic point of view.
Mm-hmm.
But, people have often said to me over the history of my life, why do you wear rose-coloured glasses? Take them off. And I say to them, because actually rose-coloured glasses suit me, and I like the vision that it gives me. Because there's always a way of looking at it that can bring some kindness to our heart. Yeah. This too shall pass. This is a long cycle, I get that, but this too shall pass. And who do we need to go to in the amongst of it? Mother Nature. She will have her arms waiting for us. she will give us that view of the sunrise or the sunset. You think that you've got no money, that you're broke, you're never poor, you can be broke, different mindsets. Have a look at the sunset, have a look at the sunrise. Everybody gets to see the same thing. If you see it in that moment of its magic, of its love for you, you have everything. You have joy and you have this gift. It is fleeting, it's momentary. But you know what? Twice a day, you've got beauty through Mother Nature.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much. It takes you to be present and it takes you to be observant.
Yeah. Yep. For sure, Barb. Very, very true. And well spoken. I too have decided, because sometimes I think, a lot of people I know are feel very strongly how negative and how bad everything is now, and how untruthful, or where what's happening is, or whatever. And it's like, yes, I know that perspective. I feel it at times, or I have the standing to know why that is very true, but I choose peace. I choose
Yeah.
curiosity of what's going to happen, what is in the making. I choose love.
Yeah. And that's one of the greatest gifts that God gave us. I said to my youngest son when he was going off to Japan to teach, and I think he was about 22, he didn't like it. Loved Japan, didn't like teaching. He doesn't like people a lot, and that's okay. And I fully understand that. But I said to him, darling heart, God gave you 3 great gifts, and you have to pay God back for those 3 great gifts. The first gift is life itself, and you have to pay God back. Whoever you perceive God to be, you have to pay God back. And how you pay God back? By being the best you can at any given time. Now, that best could only be 5% of who you are, but in that 5%, make it the best. That's how you pay God back.
Yeah.
The second is the gift of love, the giving and the receiving of love, and the love that the universe has for you. My son understands my meaning of the word God. And the third greatest gift God gave you is the gift of choice. Now, you're going to make a choice. You made a choice to go to Japan. Now, it may or may not work out. If it worked out, stay there. If it doesn't work out, make a different choice. Make a different decision. Just nothing is set in concrete, nothing is permanent. You could be called all sorts of names, but the third greatest gift God gave you, son, is the gift of choice. Don't use it wisely, just use it. And if you've chosen the wrong thing, make a different decision.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
make a different decision. That's all you need to do.
Absolutely. Barb, beautiful. Let's end
Thank
there.
you
What
so
a
much,
lovely
everyone.
thought. Yeah. Thank you, Barb. And thank you, everyone, for watching. I hope you have many tidbits and thoughts that can help you on your path. So we'll catch you next time.
Ka kite anō. Goodbye until we meet.